And good afternoon. You're tuned in to day 3, the final day of the 2026 ECAC Open Championships. I'm Nicholas Severini, coming to you live from the Kidding Auditorium in Lewisburg, Pennsylvania, for the final day of competition here in Lewisburg. We'll get set for the longest competition that we will see this evening, the first of 2 of the 1650-yard freestyle, just over a mile's length, as we get for the women's final in this timed event with all 8 lanes occupied. The introductions being displayed by our public address announcer on the near side. We will do it with them. Going from lane 1 to lane 8, for those of you tuning in, of course, live on YouTube, lane 1 is going to be represented by the closest lane on our opposite screen. It's going to be to the left side towards the right. On the up top screen, it'll be the near side to the far side. So where you are looking at now, from the left side, lane 1, all the way to the right side, being in lane number 8. And in lane number 1, one of our 2 Iona swimmers that we will see both in lanes 1 and 2, as Molly Sarnes occupies the nearest lane. In lane 2, the senior Catherine Sarnes, also of Iona, comes in that second lane. Lane 3 will feature one of our youngest swimmers in this competition out of Rutgers, Isabella Val. The Rutgers University swimmer in lane 3 is expected to be the number 3 seed in this competition. The top seed in lane 4, Maggie Strowley. As we're underway in lane 4, as mentioned, Strowley out of the University of Pennsylvania, her seeded time nearly 20 seconds faster than any other swimmer in this competition. She is the favorite down there in lane number 4, will be second to the opposite side wall to start this competition. In lane number 5, Dara Schuff, the 21-year-old swimmer out of Lehigh University, will be next to her. In lane number 6, we'll see Adriana Capinetti, the 19-year-old swimmer out of Loyola Maryland University. In lane 7, we'll have Carly Marriott out of the Naval Academy of Navy, and her teammate Blair Wayman, the 19-year-old out of the U.S. Naval Academy, in lane number 8 to start this competition. It has been a thrilling couple of days so far in the ECAC Open Championships for both the women and the men's side of the things. The big storyline early on has been the dominance of Navy in both competitions, the longtime favorite for both the women and the men when this tournament takes place. Bucknell notably are the reigning champions on the women's side of things, and they are, though, in second to Navy after the first 2 days of 3, with today concluding the meet. So far we see, I would say, to no surprise, the middle lanes beginning to separate themselves from the pack quite early on. Dara Schuff has been leading the line so far in the opening salvo of this one, and what is the mile plus competition to start day 3 of 3. And now we see for the first time, you see on the lane number 4 side, Maggie Strowley out of Penn start to increase the length. She has the lead now for the first time, and one that we expect her to have for the vast majority of this one. An 18-second favorite according to the seeded time. Up in lane number 5, Dara Schuff has a seeded time of a 17:17.11, and in lane number 3, Isabella Val out of Rutgers, a 17:26.78, rounding out the top 3. And so far, has to be said admittedly, that the top 3 have been representative of their seeded times so far, though down in lane number 3, a couple body lengths behind is Isabella Val, with Adriana Capinetti doing quite well up in lane number 6. But as we mentioned, as it's a good time to discuss the competition that has been so far as we're in the mile competition. For the women's side of things, the diving board events have concluded, and it was dominated by the midshipwomen of Lily Barrett and Claire Ellish, who took the top spot on the podium in the 1 meter and 3 meter dive respectively, both representatives of Navy. That was 2 of Navy's 6 individual wins that the women have had. Only 2 other schools, Rutgers and Penn, have had multiple wins so far in this competition from the diving board or in the swimming pool. Loyola's only win would come in the 200 yard freestyle relay to start day number 1. The 500 yard freestyle was taken by Caroline Carolina Daher of Harvard. Harvard's his only win so far for the women in this competition and in overall. In the 200-yard individual medley, we saw Clara Renner obtain Bucknell's only individual win for the women's side of things and their second competitive win so far this weekend. Followed by the 50-yard freestyle, Anna Vlacho of Rutgers took her first of what would be 2 individual victories for the Scarlet Knights swimmer. In the medley relays of 400 and 200 yards would produce 2 more, though, Navy victories, with Navy's A team getting both. In the 400-yard individual medley, Marley Bernard of Navy started day number 2 victorious in the individual events to get Navy's 5th competitive win on the women's side of things. Rutgers would get their second win courtesy of Anna Vlacho. We mentioned she is the only multi-win individuals in individual competitions, I should say, getting her second competitive win in the 100-yard butterfly, followed by the 200-yard freestyle, in which we saw Rui Tong Zhang of Penn and Charlotte Holiday, also of Penn, get victory in the 200-yard freestyle and 100-yard backstroke. Following that was the 100-yard breaststroke, where Navy got their last individual win yesterday in the form of Corinne Warner, who was also expected to swim today. And then rounding out yesterday in the women's competition was the 800-yard freestyle relay, a competition in which Penn's A team took the victory. Penn with the most wins outside of the Naval Academy in 2 days out of 3 in the 2026 ECAC Open Championships. Approaching about a third of the way concluded here in the mile, and now we're seeing our top-seeded swimmer, Maggie Strowley, begin to separate herself from the pack in lane number 4, still producing lap times under 31 seconds. A very impressive swim for her in the early going. She's nearly a second quicker than the Lehigh swimmer in second, Dara Schuff, with Isabella Val trying to get away from the pack herself down in lane number 3, as Adriana Caponini, due to quite the fast start, has herself rounding out the top 3, with Val a bit behind in 4th position. So what does that mean, as mentioned by the wins by team? Well, Navy currently has the top spot with six individual and team wins combined of the 14 competitions so far on the women's side of things, followed by the University of Pennsylvania, who has 3 wins in total, and Rutgers, the only other multi-win school as mentioned, with 2, both courtesy of Anna Vlacho, who is currently the only multi-individual win swimmer on the women's side this weekend. And then 1 win each for Harvard, Bucknell, and Loyola Maryland has capped off what has been 2 days of 3 in this competition so far. As it currently stands in the swimming pool, called about a 3 bodies length advantage, almost the length of the pool now, as continuing to keep the consistent swimming times has been Maggie Strowley. Right there in lane number 4 in the white cap befitting University of Pennsylvania, still under 31 seconds on the lap times. If you want a comparison, you can see it on the top right of your screens. Every other swimmer, it seems, is 32 seconds plus, except Strowley, who is still maintaining about a second to 2 seconds quicker from any other swimmer in the pool. That was expected. A seated time of 16 minutes 49.07 for Strowley coming into this competition. She was the heavy favorite, trying to produce a 3rd individual win for the University of Pennsylvania so far in this women's meet. Rui Tong Zhang and Charlotte Holiday both getting wins yesterday in the 200-yard freestyle and 100-yard backstroke have given wins to UPenn. And right now trying to get the 3rd win, and favored to do so is Strowley, who continues to increase her advantage with some very consistent lap times. That's been the early storyline in this competition. She touches the wall at a 7:36 mark through just under halfway so far in this competition. We get a look then at the team scores as we approach halfway here. For the women's side of things, it is a narrow margin that I would say is a little bit less narrow compared to the men's side of things, but Navy is in the top position in the women's team scores, followed by Bucknell, Loyola, the University of Pennsylvania, who might very well get themselves back up into the top three after the conclusion of this event, with Fairfield, Iona, Manhattan, Rutgers, Central Connecticut State, and James Madison rounding out the top 10 schools in terms of overall team points, with Delaware, Baruch College, Hunter College, Harvard, Lehigh, and American rounding out all 16 schools that are competing in the women's events this weekend. Past the halfway mark, and it is still an emphatic advantage for Maggie Strally right in that middle lane, lane number 4. And it takes quite a while for second place to keep up in the form of Dara Schuff. Schuff not lapped by Strally by any means, but the advantage of about 10 plus seconds as expected for Maggie Strally, who continues to have some very consistent times. We're starting to get quite the interesting battle to round out the top 5. Of course, the top 6 get a spot on the podium. That is towards the left side here of the swimming pool, at the natatorium, I should say. And it happens to be some of the swimmers on the outside of sorts. Schuff and Caponiti, though, meanwhile, up in lanes 5 and lane 6, have rounded out the top 3, and there's definitely a competition taking place towards that far side of the pool in terms of who gets that potential second place position. The two swimmers, look out for them in lanes 5 and 6, are separated by just a couple of bodies lengths. I would give it about a 3 to 4 second advantage in lanes 5 and 6 between second and third place. Call it about 4 seconds as Schuff, the Lehigh swimmer, finds herself narrowly ahead of Caponiti as we pass 10 minutes swam here in the women's 1650-yard freestyle. This is just the first of what is expected to be some fascinating and enticing events that will be taking place in the swimming pool today. The events for the final after the mile will be the 200-yard backstroke, followed by the 100-yard freestyle, the 200-yard breaststroke, the 200-yard freestyle, and then this evening's events will cap off with the 400-yard freestyle relay to conclude today's events. Right now, so far in the opening competition of day number 3, it seems to be a battle for second place. Maggie Strally took the advantage around the third lap or so, narrowly ahead of Adriana Caponiti, and then as she swam, she just continued to produce stellar lap times, shy of 31 seconds. And as we say, she's about to lap fourth place is Isabella Vale, who is down in lane number 3, who is neck and neck with Caponiti, trying to get back into the top 3 of sorts. Isabella Vale, the 19-year-old swimmer out of Rutgers, down in lane number 3, is the number 3 seed in this competition. Had a bit of a slower start, but has kept the consistent lap times around 32 to 33 seconds as she looks to inch herself closer to a top 3 spot in this competition. But it is something to behold when you see just how consistent the lap times for Maggie Strally has been. We have seen 30.5, 30.4, 30.6 every single lap so far for the UPenn swimmer. As far as storylines are concerned, it comes in who could round out the podium places following. And we still have quite the interesting battle for second place up in lane 5 and in lane number 6. Notably, Caponiti, who is up in lane 6, you see on the scoreboard on the top right, had a swim that was about 3/10 of a lap quicker and is starting to catch up with Dara Schuff for second position so far in the women's 1650-yard freestyle. As they continue to swim, continue to keep the consistency going. We look at the splits, and now Schuff and Caponiti even at a 32.47 in that last one. Strally, the closest she's gone to 31 seconds on a lap so far here, meanwhile, in top position, maintaining about a 1.5 second advantage per lap over every other swimmer in the pool. In fact, she's coming up now to third place is Isabella Vale. and is trying to lap the entire field at this rate. And as we see Strally in that middle fourth lane, it's going to be Strally from Schuff from Caponiti in the top three. And then you have Isabella Val, who is fighting into that top four position, away from, on the top, Carly Marriott, it seems, who is up in lane 7 for Navy. One of two Navy swimmers, Marriott and Vayman, continuing to compete up top. Good push down in lane number 2 for Catherine Zarnes, the 22-year-old swimmer out of Iona, who still has a seam in the top 5. Catherine and Molly Sarnes in lanes 1 and 2. Haven't spoken about it much. Those are the two Iona swimmers competing so far in this one. And this is where you really see what the swimmers are made of when you get to this stage. Now under 10 lengths left to swim in the opening competition, in the opening event that we will see. The women's 1650-yard freestyle to start day 3 of the 2026 ECAC Open Championships, live here from Lewisburg, Pennsylvania. The reigning champions as a team are Bucknell, snapping Navy, who won the last 2 events prior, and notably 6 of the last 8. But that doesn't compare to the dominance that the Navy men's program has had in this competition that we will speak of in the men's mile swim that'll take place following the conclusion of this one. And now we can officially say that the entire field has been lapped by Maggie Strally. She came close to a 31-second lap time, and I suppose took it personal, down to under 30.9 in this competition. Strally, the entire field lapped. And then right behind her, trying to maintain that consistent form up in lane number 5, Dara Schuff, as we approach over 15-minute swam. Rounding out the top 5 down low, Catherine Sarnes, who's had some consistencies as well, keeping it under 34 seconds. That's going to be required for a top 5 finish. But just a 4-second gap still between second and third in lane 5 and lane 6. You give credit to what Adriana Caponiti has done up in lane number 6. She has not let Dara Schuff swim away into second position, at least as of yet. The question is, though, whether or not Caponiti or Schuff, one of the other, is going to be able to turn it into that extra gear. Caponiti, rather, can turn it into that extra gear and catch up to Schuff. She did swim notably 7/10 of a lap slower than Schuff on that previous lap, who's looking to keep a stalwart position for second place. All the way at the back, only 4 seconds separating 7th and 8th, all the way up in lane number 8 and all the way down in lane number 1. Blair Wayman in lane 8, Molly Sarnes in lane 1, but the bell rings here for the final lap already for Maggie Strally. In what could be a very dramatic event, Strally, the Pennsylvania swimmer, has kept it very much drama-free as she goes to the final length right in the middle of your screens in lane number 4. Strally came in as the heavy favorite and will conclude with a mighty victory to start day 3 of the championships. Maggie Strally keeping it under 30 seconds as well, saving her best for last, taking first position with a 16:48.5. It lived up to the billing for Maggie Strally in lane number 4, the emphatic victory for the UPenn swimmer. And then up in lane number 5, something that might get lost in the headlines was the ever-consistent swim from Dara Schuff up in lane 5. She actually led the first 2 laps of this competition and will settle for a convincing second position in lane number 5 and a 28.7 to round it out. Up in lane 6, Adriana Caponiti was the pole leader after the first lap. She'll take third position with 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th all still onto their final respective laps. But once again, the top 3 will be Maggie Strally getting the victory from Isabella Val down in lane 3, from Daria Schuff up in lane number 5 from Adriana Caponiti, who will take third, and then Val did do well to come back and take 4th position down in lane number 3. Fifth place will be an impressive swim from Catherine Sarnes, who came in as the 6th seed, does improve up to 5th position overall. 6th place belongs all the way up top from Carly Marriott, who had an impressive final leg as well. And then the outside lanes rounding it out and just narrowly getting 7th position. Blair Wayman down in lane number 8 with Molly Sarnes in lane number 1, settling for 8th position. For Maggie Straley, she provides what is the 4th competitive win for the University of Pennsylvania in the 2026 ECAC Open Championships for the women, and the 5th overall for UPenn. Their one win for the men belonging in the 3-meter dive, with Jack Handelman getting it yesterday. But now we approach the men's mile. The men's 1650-yard freestyle set to take place. All 8 lanes occupied in this event. Our excellent public address announcer onto the near side showing him out. You see the scoreboard on your right side? It's not a glitch. Loyola Maryland very much occupying the pool and then some. All 3 lanes on the near side belonging to Greyhound swimmers. Pierre Leroy will be down in lane number 1. The oldest of the Loyola swimmers of the 4 competing is 21-year-old Peter Weinstein, who is in lane 2. In lane 3, we'll see Chase Garcia, one of the youngest swimmers in this competition. The 19-year-old will be in that 3rd lane. In the middle lanes, and the favorite out of NJIT is Jonathan Adut. He will be the 10-second favorite in this competition, with the 2nd seed being another UPenn swimmer, 20-year-old Andy Zhou in lane 5. Up in lane 6, the only Navy swimmer competing, George Ivascu, the 19-year-old. In lane 7, we'll see the final Loyola swimmer, Matthew Hughes. And in lane 8, rounding out Connor Hallstrom, the Norwich University swimmer, in lane 8. NJIT not as represented in comparison to some of the other schools so far in this competition, but will be the favorite at least in this one, courtesy of Jonathan Adut with a 15:29.9 seated time in the middle lanes. And they are just about 6 abreast outside of the outside lanes after the first lap swam of many, many more to come. For the men, the main storyline has been the outright dominance of the way Navy has competed in all different aspects of this competition through the first 2 days. And that's not unsurprising for the midshipmen who have won, coming into this year, 11 straight ECAC Open Championships. The only time they haven't won in the last 12 years was when the event was canceled due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Besides that, the midshipmen have been relentless with 11 straight championships, and they have nearly lapped the field on the team score through the first 2 days of competition here. It started on the diving board, though, in which Navy weren't able to get a win. In fact, it was Bucknells's Jackson Vinarub on the 1 meter that got the only men's individual victory for the hometown Bison, with the aforementioned Jack Handelman of Penn getting the victory in the 3-meter dive. But once they were in the swimming pool and got into the strokes, the midshipmen have dominated, taking overall 11 out of the 12 swimming competitions. The only exception for Navy not winning, they actually came in 2nd place in this event, the 100-meter backstroke. In the backstroke, we saw Joe Hayburn of Loyola Maryland get the victory in that one. Loyola, as mentioned, very much represented in the swimming pool in this competition. But the other Navy events, they took victory in the 200 freestyle relay, in the 500-yard individual freestyle with George Ivascu getting the win. Stephen Aguirre would take 2 individual events, the only man to take 2 events this weekend in the 200-yard individual medley, as well as the 100-yard breaststroke. Meanwhile, in the 50-yard freestyle, Henry Kane got it for the midshipmen, with Navy taking team event victories in the 400-yard medley relay and the 200-yard medley relay. In the intermedley, the 400-yarder, Jaden Srinivasan got it for the midshipmen, with the 100-yard butterfly being won by Alex Park. Then in the 200-yard freestyle, Kellen Pattison got it on day 2. Aguirre would take his second event, as mentioned, in the 100-yard breaststroke. Rounding out, the aforementioned Hayburn got the last individual event win in the 100-yard backstroke, but Navy still, of course, had the last slab in the 800-yard freestyle relay. The midshipmen completing their 11th victory on the men's side of things in this competition. Back in the swimming pool here, the men's 1650-yard freestyle. The women's side of things taken by the University of Pennsylvania's Maggie Stralley, who had a 16:48 swim. That was about 15 seconds better than the rest of the field and a whole lap better than the rest. In lane number 4, the 10-second favorite in this competition is the NJIT swimmer Jonathan Adut, and has the early advantage, still swimming under 28 seconds. He is the only swimmer going under 28 seconds at this stage in the competition. And notably, Adut doing it a little bit different than everyone else. You see the spotters on the right side showing the number of lengths swam. Adut going what once in a while you see swimmers do, counting down rather than counting up. It does help us in the broadcast booth, though, admittedly, as it gives us an insight on just how much long we have to go. But so far, Adut is ticking that ticker down to 46 and counting at a pace quicker than anyone else in the pool. Coming into this, we expected both mile swims to be quite emphatically victorious for the favorites, with an 18-second and 10-second gap respectively, and Adut so far living up to the billing. However, it's been an impressive swim for the Navy swimmer George Ivascu. Ivascu, who notably took the 500-yard freestyle competition on day 1 of these championships. He is keeping just about a body's length ahead. You can see him up right in the middle of your screen in the top left, up in lane number 6, towards that near side. We have our pace leader, Jonathan Adut, but Ivascu still keeping Adut with some company in the middle lanes. Separating the two, and in third position, Andy Zhou, the UPenn swimmer, who is the number 2 seed, is expected to be, if you want to be exact, 9.8 seconds slower on the seeded times, with Zhou at a 15:39.77 and Adut, the favorite, with a 15:29.90 flat. But it is the NJIT swimmer Adut that has led the way. So we go to the wins by team then for the men after 2 days swam going into day number 3. Navy, of the 14 competitions, as mentioned, they've gone on and took 11 of them. No other school has more than 1 victory so far in these 2 days. Loyola, Bucknell, and Penn occupying the other 3 wins, with Penn and Bucknell getting it on the diving board. And as mentioned, Loyola in the 100-yard backstroke, courtesy of Joe Hayburn. Over a third of the way swam here in the 1650-yard freestyle for the men. Should be noted the event record, not expected to be touched. Jack McIntyre getting it back in 2018. He swam a 14:47.75. That was 11 seconds quicker, notably, than the Bucknell University pool record, occupied by a Navy swimmer, Eric Hunter, who got that all the way back in the year 2009. But Navy with 11 straight Open Championships. Eric Hunter did get a championship with Navy that year, notably for the midshipmen. They have 11 straight, Navy, and they will take a 12th in a row, pending the extraordinary, as we're into day 3 of this competition. We're starting to see on that right side, you might be able to tell now from the spotters, the spotters' numbers becoming identical from those counting up and those counting down. That means we are in the halfway point of this competition. It is an emphatic advantage for Jonathan Adut, who is still pulling in laps under 28 seconds. He was about 0.5 of a second quicker on that previous lap from George Ivascu, who is in second. Separating the two is Andy Zhou in lane 5. He is in third. Up top, Matthew Hughes is in fourth position and is trying to prevent a catch-up down in lane number 3 by Chase Garcia, who is in fifth place. And then down low, 6th and 7th, 2 Loyola swimmers in the form of Pierre Leroy and Peter Weinstein. And then 7th and 8th place all the way up top with Hughes and Hallstrom. Or rather, Garcia down in the third lane with Hallstrom rounding out the 8th. Connor Hallstrom out of Norwich University, notably, is the oldest swimmer in the competition, the 22-year-old, who is one of the few Norwich University swimmers that we have seen so far in competition today. In fact, if you want to be pristine, he is one of 8 Norwich University swimmers for the men that we have seen. And we have one female swimmer in the form of Alana Kelleher, who competes in the 100-yard or less freestyle competitions. But he's representing Norwich in that top lane and is trying to catch up to the rest of the pack currently. It is very hard to catch up to the swimmer Jonathan Adut. Down in the middle lanes in lane number 4, still occupies first position and has not had any swimmer catch up to him. Georgie Vascu, who won the 500-yard competition earlier this weekend, back on Friday, has done well sticking within a length of a pool with him, but it's an average of about 0.5 to 0.6 of a second quicker. And I tell you what, dude is now turning it up a little bit. That was 0.2 quicker, a 27.79 for him in the middle lanes than in his previous lap. Still got stamina to burn, it seems, in the middle 4th lane. Chance to look then at the team scores, what we have seen so far for the men's side of things in this competition. You can see it on the bottom right of your screen, but Navy, the unsurprising, very much heavy advantage at 724 points ahead of Loyola Maryland, who is in second at 392. Navy almost doubling the rest of the pack, it seems, with Loyola closest. Columbia in third position, despite not having an individual win. They've had some very consistent swims, with UPenn in fourth place, just 15 and a half points behind the aforementioned school. Bucknell, the hometown school, is in the top 5 with a 5th place spot, just 20 points ahead of Fairfield University, who is in 6th. Then it's Baruch College, Norwich, Maine Maritime, and Manhattan rounding out the top 10. Outside the top 10 of the 5 other schools taking place, we have Husan University, Iona, Lehigh, Wilkes, and SUNY Maritime rounding out the 15 schools that are taking place here. SUNY Maritime with their men's swimming team in competition, with 4 representatives of the Maritime School taking part in this weekend's festivities. Impressive showing so far as far as the team scores is concerned for Bucknell. Top 5 in both the men and the women, but of course the storyline is Navy leading in the men and women's side of things, as they have done in 2 of the last 3 seasons. Only Bucknell's women's team last season spoiling 3 straight competitive team wins for the men and the women of the midshipmen. But Navy looking for their get back this year, and they are certainly on pace to do just that. Approaching now 8 laps to go, as touching the left side of the pole, Jonathan Adut. I'm pretty sure, if memory serves, Adut has led in every single lap, maybe barring the first or second one, but Adut with a 28.12, still keeping a consistent 5 to 6 of a second advantage over George Ivascu, the 19-year-old swimmer up in lane 6 representing Navy. Ivascu's done very well so far to keep up with Adut, who is the 10-second favorite. But Adut keeping that consistent time under 28 seconds. It's going to take something very special for someone to catch up with the NJIT swimmer in the middle lane. During Vascu, we have once again Andy Zhou keeping his spot in third place down in lane number 5. You go down in lane number 2, Peter Weinstein trying to tail, although I believe Weinstein might be a lap back, in fact, as the top 3 have very much separated themselves from the rest. Garcia down in lane number 3, in fact, is the 4th place swimmer currently, as you see in the top right of your screens. This is, of course, the longest event that we will see in this competition throughout this weekend. After the 1650-yard freestyle, reminder for those of you just tuning in, we have the 200-yard backstroke competition that will take place, followed by the 100-yard freestyle, the 200-yard breaststroke, the 200 fly, and, of course, as tradition, rounding out the competition, we have the 400-yard freestyle relay. There'll be about 2 heats in every single competition the rest of the way. Of course, only 1 heat for the women, 1 heat for the men. The opening competition taken by Maggie Strally, whose time of a 16:48 blew out the rest of the competition. We're seeing a similar performance for Jonathan Adut down in lane number 4, touching the wall towards the left side, going right. Now at 1,500 yards swam of the 1650. You see those counting up now into their 60th length and counting. For Jonathan Adu in the middle lane, just 2 laps left to swim. And what's been a very mature swim for the NJIT representative down in lane number 4. Still pulling in a lap time of a 28.2. Notably up in lane 3, you see Chase Garcia now going under the 29-second times. The 4th place swimmer down in lane number 3, maybe attempting a catch-up towards the rest of the pack. I mentioned the top 6 gets to the podium. That is to the left side of the pool here at the Kinnean Auditorium. 3rd place still is Joe with Ivascu in 2nd, and now Jonathan Adut on the bell lap here in the middle. And as predicted, a drama-free affair for the NJIT swimmer. He's going to come in not only with a victory, but will go under his seeded time. He was predicted at a 15:29.9, and he is going to go on and shatter that in lane number 4. Adut to the wall, and a 26.4 on the final lap to take the victory in the men's 1650-yard freestyle. 2nd position tailing, we see George Ivascu and Andy Zhao in that both top 3 spots. Bit of a ways to go as Andy Zhao touches the wall for 3rd and had a good little comeback, cut it all the way down to 6 seconds, but it will still be Ivascu in that 2nd position with a very impressive 27.2 final lap. 4th place is Garcia for Loyola. He is the quickest of the 4 Loyola Maryland swimmers in this competition, with Hughes coming in 5th position. 6th place will be all the way down in lane number 1, Pierre Leroy, who kept consistent times down in that 1st lane, with Weinstein and Hallstrom rounding out the top 8 spots. And how about that? Just as everyone predicted, I would say, coming into it, with the individual wins for the men, Navy, Bucknell, Loyola, Penn, and then NJIT getting an individual win courtesy of a Jonathan Adu victory in the men's 1650-yard freestyle. As we see up top, Connor Hallstrom of Norwich University rounding out the top 8. The medal ceremony, the medals already laid out towards the left side, and the podium soon to be occupied for the men's and the women's 1650-yard freestyle. So 2 ECAC champions crowned, Maggie Strally for the women's 1650-yard freestyle and Jonathan Adut for the men's 1650-yard freestyle. The first 2 events of Day 3 of the 2026 ECAC Open Championships. There is the podium that everyone is looking to be a part of. on the left side of the Kinnean Auditorium, right under the scoreboard that occupies the rest, as we see some of the swimmers meander their way towards the respective diving boards. As coming up will be the women's 200-yard backstroke. We'll see 2 heats of this competition. A record notably that has been held for a long time by a Bucknell swimmer in the form of Emma Lewandowski of Bucknell, a record that's now stood over 11 years old. Her record time of a 1:54.48 in the pool, not expected to be beaten, but we will see some very enticing competition as we'll start the women's 200-yard backstroke in just a few short moments. First, a look to the podium, and we'll let the public address announcer take it from there.
Third tonight, 17:31.86, Loyola. Second tonight, 17:24.20, Arena Dora Shaw. And ECAC champion, winning time 16:48.52 for Penn. And now we'll put it into in 8th place, from Loyola, Peter Weinstein. In 7th, his breakout teammate, Peter Loyola. Sixth place, from Leon. Christian Lapoli. In 5th place, Loyola, Matthew Hughes. In 4th, Loyola, Chase Garcia. Third, University of Pennsylvania, 15:38.61, Amy Zhao. In 2nd, 15:32.59, Troy Lascu. Champion winning time 15:17.79. Nutrition Institute Technology, Jonathan Ouch.
NJIT represented on the podium, on the top spot of the podium for the first time in this competition. The NJIT swimmer Jonathan Adu taking the victory in the men's 1650 freestyle. For the women, you saw prior Maggie Strowley, the 20-year-old swimmer out of UPenn, representing Penn's 4th women's victory of the day, of the weekend rather, I should say, and the 5th of this weekend's competition. Back in the swimming pool we go for the women's 200-yard backstroke, heat 1 of 2. From lanes 1-3, Anna Sen of American, the youngest competitor at 18 years old, one of 3 18-year-olds. With Wiley Edge in lane 2 out of Fairfield University, Georgia Andrew in lane 3 out of Navy. The 21-year-old Talia Bugel of Bucknell's in lane 4. Sammy Yerkes in lane 5, one of 4 other Loyola swimmers in the top half lanes, with Virginia Walsh in lane 6. Kelly Bruin, the oldest of the Loyola swimmers, in lane 7. And the youngest of the Loyola swimmers, Elsie Bredbenner, in lane number 8. This is the first heat of 2 in the backstroke final. The favorite, Torin McGillis, out of Delaware. We haven't seen Delaware at the top of the podium yet, but she will be the slight 0.7 of a second favorite. We're expecting a time in the 2-minute 05s, and so far, approaching the halfway mark. Impressive start for Georgia Andrew of Navy, down in lane number 3 at the halfway mark, just under a minute. She touches the wall, 0.3 of a second difference between her and Talia Bugel in lanes 3 and 4. Needed a time of a 2:14.8 to qualify for this meet, and we expect a time that's about 14 seconds quicker in order to win the meet. But so far, lanes 3 and 4, with Andrew and Bugel separated by about an arm's length at the moment. And up in lanes 5 and 6, Sammy Yerkes and Virginia Walsh continues to increase the pace. The quickest time, though, belonging to Andrew, who is behind by about 3.5 of a second. But Andrew and Bugel neck and neck. And I tell you what, Bugel had a really good jump off the wall going into the final lap here. Bucknell represented by the bright orange cap right in the middle of the pool, and it's Talia Bugel, the 21-year-old for the Bison, increasing her advantage. Looks to be saving the best lap for last, touching the wall to the far side, and a 2:01.75. An incredible lap for Talia Bugel, placing her 3.5 seconds quicker than her preliminary time. She'll take the top spot, and that's a time worth watching if she wants a spot on a podium, a 2:01.75. That's going to give the second heat some pause. So Talia Bugel, the 21-year-old Bucknell swimmer, the oldest swimmer in that heat, saved her best lap for last and will have a very competitive time to beat for heat number 2. We go now to the favorites, the top 8s in the preliminaries, and the expected favorite, Torin McGillis, who is favored by about 9/100ths of a second in this competition, trying to provide Delaware's first win in the ECAC Open Championship this season. The public address announcer is saying out the swimmers. We'll say with them, Jackie Sheneman in lane 1. The Navy swimmer is the oldest in this competition. In lane 2 will be Madison Wimmer, the 19-year-old out of James Madison. Followed by in lane 3, Allie Mahoney, also of Navy, one of 3 Navy swimmers. In lane 4, the aforementioned McGillis. The number 2 seed, though, Olivia Safarakova, is expected to provide some close competition. Those two separated by less than 1/10 of a second in the prelims. And in lane 6, we'll see Charlotte Holiday of UPenn as we'll get set for this one. Closing it out up top in lane number 7, Aspen Gallaudet of Navy. And in lane 8, another Bucknell representative, Virginia Hastings, out of the Bison Women's Swim Program, part of that Bucknell team that currently finds themselves in second place to Navy in the women's overall team rankings. So far, it seems like the best jump belongs to Olivia Safarakova of Penn. The 19-year-old will touch the wall first in the first 50 yards of 200 swam. Have to admit, a bit of a slow start for McGillis, who finds herself with about 0.8 to make up after the first 50 yards. They are about 3 to 4 abreast in the middle of the swimming pool, lanes 5, 4, rather 5, 6, and 4. Charlotte Holiday doing very well. Her Penn teammate, though, Olivia Safarikova, leading the line at the halfway mark of 57.8 on a 100-yard slam. That is very competitive. Continuing to increase her lead, Safarikova. She is the fastest swimmer through the first 100. Torin McGillis raised eyebrows with a very stellar preliminary time of a 2:09 that had her as the number 1 seed. But Olivia Safarikova, who is a national contender in lane number 5, is looking for her get back after placing 9.09 seconds slower. And Safarikova, still right at that 30-second flat lap time, will go into the final length, ahead by about nearly a body's length, in fact. She'll push off the wall first, trying to complete what has been a stellar swim in lane number 5. Her teammate in lane 6, Charlotte Holiday, providing a late burst. But Olivia Safarikova will get to the wall, a sub-2-minute time, a 1:58.1 to take the top spot. And it's a Penn 1 and 2 as Charlotte Holiday takes second, with Torin McGillis settling for third. Olivia Safarikova led from the first 50 and onwards and was the fastest swimmer in every lap swam, all 4 laps swam, to take the championship in the women's 200-yard backstroke. Now we turn to the men's side of things and what is expected to be a clear favorite in heat number 2, but we start in heat 1. Heat 1 of 2 in the men's 200-yard backstroke final. From lane 1 to lane 8, Ibrahim Muhammad, followed by, of Manhattan, I should say. And then in lane 2, Nikita Bitsyutsky of Bucknell. And then in 3, Matt McClellan, the 21-year-old out of Lehigh. And then 2 Bucknell swimmers in lane 4 and 5 in the form of Caleb Kubiak and Avery Kuhn. Then in lane 6, we'll see Drew Bilo, the Norwich University swimmer, followed by the final Bucknell swimmer represented in lane 7. That's Chase Ferguson. Tenzin Gurung out of Baruch College is in lane number 8. The expected time to beat could be even in the sub-144s, as the pool record set by Boston University's Connor Stew of a 143.3 could very much be in jeopardy. An 11-year-old record could be broken, but so far in heat number 2 at the halfway mark, the hometown Bison fans are going to like this one. Avery Kuhn ahead in a Bucknell 1 and 2 in the opening heat, as Caleb Kubiak does not find himself much further behind. But a good push off the wall down in lane number 3 for Matt McClellan, who has himself about a body's length behind Kuhn going into the final there and back. We'll see who has the better jump, and you can see the top 3 in the middle very much separating themselves, and McClellan has himself with a better wall push out as he comes to the final length, trying to catch up to Kuhn, who's up in lane number 5. Kuhn, though, recovered quite well in the final length. McClellan putting in a good contest, but it's going to be Avery Kuhn, the Bucknell swimmer, that comes to the wall and takes the top spot in the heat with a 150.6. McClellan in second and Kubiak in third. Bucknell rounding out the top 4 up in lane 7 with Chase Ferguson and Bilo in the top 5. The hometown Bison fans and the Bison swimming teams, a round of applause for Avery Kuhn. No Bucknell swimmer, though, in heat number 2, as this could be an event on record watch. The pool record 143.38. Joe Hayburn's preliminary time of a 144.5 has done enough to give the record holder some pause, the Loyola swimmer. The rest of the swimmers competing 5 teenagers here, including two 18-year-olds in lane 1 and 2. Patrick Kiorna of Loyola and Bobby Reagan of Fairfield in the first 2 lanes. In lane 3, Jaden Srinivasan, who has one competitive victory already today. Srinivasan took the 400-yard individual medley. He is represented as the number 3 seed. Joe Hayburn notably does have a win in this competition as well in the 100-yard backstroke competition. He's the heavy favorite in this one. Aaron Mendoza in lane 5 for Navy, with lane 6 belonging to Sam Voss of the Greyhounds. Then in lane 7, we'll see Will Landon, the final teenager competing out of Fairfield University. Josh Stegner in lane 8, the Loyola swimmer, 22 years old, rounding it out as they go into the swimming pool. We've only seen one man have multiple wins this weekend. Joe Hayburn, Jaden Srinivasan trying to be the second. All eyes are going to belong to the swimmer in lane number 4, Joe Hayburn, who is a 2.7 second favorite in the middle 4th lane. He set a preliminary time that was just 0.7 of a second shy of the pool record, and notably just 0.6 of a second shy from the championship record of a 1:43.9 set by Mohammed Hussein of UMBC way back in 2014, 12 years ago. Joe Hayburn, of course, the victory would come first, but I'm sure he sees that pool record, sees that championship record, and thinks he's got a shot. So far up in lane number 5, though, Aaron Mendoza, maybe trying to spoil the party. 2 19-year-olds next to Hayburn. Srinivasan down in lane 3, who has one competitive win. Aaron Mendoza of Navy, who is up in lane number 5, and it is Mendoza and Srinivasan separated by a body's length as we hit the halfway mark. And so far, Hayburn with a very competitive swim. Loyola with just one swim victory, and it was Joe Hayburn in the 100-yard backstroke that managed to claim it for the Greyhounds, and now in the 200-yard backstroke with a 1:16.73 after a 150-yard swim. He's looking to produce the second. Down in the nearer 3rd lane, Jaden Srinivasan with a very competitive time that has him in 2nd position, but all eyes belonging to Joe Hayburn in the middle lane. Had a very good push off. It was the only Loyola swimmer to get a victory in Joe Hayburn, and now he'll make it 2 in 2 days with a 1:42.8 that sets the championship and pool record. And it is the top spot on the podium for the 2nd time this weekend for the Loyola swimmer. Not to be further outdone, Jaden Srinivasan, who has a victory this weekend, I should say. Now in 2nd position in the 200-yard backstroke. Mendoza holding on to 3rd place, was a whole second quicker than Bobby Reagan of Fairfield, who will take 4th position. But Joe Hayburn changing up the record books and becoming just the 2nd male swimmer to have multiple individual wins. He joins Navy swimmer Stephen Aguirre this weekend in that aspect. Well, we wondered if maybe even 2 records could have been broken. Olivia Safarikova of Penn came close to it, but I'm sure she wouldn't mind as she is victorious. We'll take it to our public address announcer for the podium ceremony.
In 6th place, midshipman teammate Aspen Gomez. 5th place, Adam Maloney. In 4th place, And your ECAC champion in the winning time, for Team University of Pennsylvania, winning her third of the weekend. And now the men's backstroke awards. In 8th place from Loyola, Patrick Siorga. In 7th, for our team, Josh Stender. Loyola in 6th place, Sam Boss. Fifth, from Fairfield, Will Landon. Tag team in 4, Bobby Reagan. In third, 147.9. In second, 145.50, chicken team, Jim Srinivasan. And your ECAC champion, system backstroke event 2, meeting record 142.84, Loyola, Joe Hager.
Joe Hayburn, just as mentioned, the second swimmer for the men to have multiple victories as the final pictures are taken on the podium. Hayburn carrying Loyola so far overall this weekend with now 2 of the 3 titles for the Greyhounds belonging to the individual Joe Hayburn in the 100 and 200-yard backstroke. And for Olivia Serafikova, came into this weekend as the favorite and will leave the champion as well. We get even quicker now. The women's 100-yard freestyle lanes 1 through 8. Anna Fleming, Alana Maxey, Elle Fanaid, Gabby Jones, Lena Sires, Samantha Aguirre, Emma Doherty, and Jayla Williamson. Rounding out the swimmers, 4 Navy swimmers. The top seed of Gabby Jones, just 2/100ths of a second ahead. This is heat 1 of 2 that we will see in this competition as we're at the halfway mark, and they are about as tight as you can get. They're about 4 abreast, with the top 4 separated by just 2.5 of a second, and it belongs to the near side pace setter of Elle Fanaid of Manhattan, who seems to have found herself slightly ahead down in that 3rd lane. It is still Fanaid rounding it out. A bit of a push up in lane number 6 for Samantha Aguirre, but it's lane 3 and 2. Fanaid and Maxey, that seems to be setting them to the line, and Fanaid does hold on for it. A 52.08, and an excellent heat victory for the Manhattan swimmer. But we turn now to the Heat 2 final. Lanes 1 through 8 all being used. 3 Bucknell swimmers. The Bison with 1 individual victory today, or this weekend for the women. They're looking for their second. But in lane number 1, the 19-year-old Naya Lagarda of Delaware. Lane 2, we'll see Valentina Fraga of Navy. 3, Clara Renner, who notably has a win already this weekend. Renner took the 200-yard individual medley. She's looking for her second win. Jennifer Bolden, her Bucknell teammate, maybe trying to take it from her. She's the favorite with a 51.17 preliminary time in lane number 4. Then in lane 5 is Haley Robinson out of Loyola. 6 will be Kyla Kelly out of Bucknell. And 7, Marina Costa the James Madison swimmer. In lane number 8, we'll see Viva Vergara Anglin of Navy. The hometown Bucknell fans certainly turning their attention to this one for an opportunity as the public address announcer gives the names out. 6 of the 8 swimmers competing, only Lagarda and Vergara Anglin in lanes 1 through 8 have pulled up with preliminary times under 52 seconds. This is expected to be highly competitive. And watch out for Bolden and Robinson in 4 and 5. They were separated by half a tenth. Very even jump, nothing exactly standing out in the pool. Longest in lane number 5, though, is Haley Robinson. And Robinson, through 25 of 100, might be slightly ahead of the pack after the first wall push. She is spending a lot of time underwater, is Robinson, off of these pushes, conserving her energy when above the pool, and she is going to touch the wall first by about a tenth and a half. She's doing very well with these wall pushes, and it's a lot that Jennifer Bolden down in lane 4 has to recover from, but she recovers from it quite well. Once they escape underwater and into the surface, it seems like Bolden might have that slight advantage, and she does find herself slightly ahead in lane number 4. Bolden down in lane 4, coming back after 50 yards, and will take it with a 50.55. Robinson competitive towards the end as Kelly will round out the top 3, but Jennifer Bolden, the 21-year-old out of Bucknell University, will secure the Bison's second women victory this weekend, joining her teammate Clara Renner, who came ultimately in 4th place in the competition. You saw the strategy for Haley Robinson. A lot of time spent underwater, very much relying on those wall pushes, but once they came to surface, it looked like Bolden was the faster swimmer. And it turned into what showed there as we go to the men's side of things. Heat 1 of 2 in the men's 100-yard freestyle. And we are going to see Joe Hayburn again here in lane number 4 in Heat 2, but we go to Heat 1, Dante Buenadonna in lane 1. Then from 1 to 8, Kevin Jiang, Truman Armstrong, Colin Smith, Tyler Nurick, Balaz Ament, then Judson McIntosh, and Vincent Vinciguerra rounding out the 8 swimmers at the halfway mark. It is about as even as you can make it, 5/100ths of a second separating first and second. Balaz Amento of Fairfield has led them, but a great wall push down in lane number 3. That was Truman Armstrong, and I reckon in lane 3 Armstrong might have the slight advantage, but we shall see. It's Armstrong in lane 3 and Ament in lane 6 that looks to be ahead. Now here comes a late push from Colin Smith in lane 4. The Bison swimmer trying to come back, but it's Armstrong that hangs on and takes the heat. But we go to heat number 2. We just mentioned Joe Hayburn, who just took victory about 5 minutes ago in the men's 200-yard backstroke. He set a new championship record in the prelims with a time of a 43.27. And he has about a 7/10 of a second advantage over Luke Lamb in lane 5. But look out for Joe Hayburn. He is trying to make this tournament his in lane number 4 for Loyola. The rest of the competitors, 2 out of Navy in lane 1 and 2. Kellen Pattison in the first lane, Henry Kane in the second lane. Then in lane 3, the Columbia swimmer, Kevin Obachi, followed by the aforementioned Hayburn and Lamb in lane 4 and 5. Then in lane 6, we'll see Simon Thompson with Evan McKelvey in lane 7 and Ryan McQuirk rounding it out up in lane number 8. We could be on for a very special weekend for Joe Hayburn in lane 4. A sly grin as his name gets announced by our public address announcer. He is in top form. He has taken 2 competitions, and he is trying to become the first swimmer this weekend to win 3 individual titles here in the pool. The only swimmer at a sub-44 second time in the prelims, Hayburn the favorite. Attention required for Obachi and Lamb in the middle. They almost shake the scaffolding as they jump off. The first out of the water on the near side looks to be Obachi down in lane number 3, and I think he might have touched the wall first too. He comes out of the water really quick down in lane number 3 and is trying to recover. Interesting strategy for Kevin Obachi as Joe Hayburn has himself maybe slightly ahead, but no, it's Thompson who is up in lane number 6, who had a very impressive last 25. But the best push off the wall belongs to Hayburn. Down in lane number 6, attention required to Henry Kane, who is in lane number 2. Kane had a really good push off of the wall and is neck and neck at the moment with Hayburn, but Hayburn begins to push away, and this championship is going to belong to Joe Hayburn in the middle, who takes it with a 42.93. The Joe Hayburn show continues in Lewisburg as he gets the top of the podium for the third time. A 42.93, that was less than 0.3 of a second away from the pool record. Dylan Felt's record set just 4 months ago is going to stick, but Hayburn, whose neck might have to be sore after carrying the amount of medals that he has taken this weekend, will get another victory. He will join Jennifer Bolden, who took the women's 100-yard freestyle at the top. Bolden, the Bucknell University swimmer, representing the second top spot for the Bison women's team this weekend. A slight delay as we get the swimmers in momentum, in formation for the podium ceremony. Takes a little bit more time, doesn't it, with how quick the events take place. But now we'll take it to our public address announcer, I should say, for the awards.
In seventh place, 2080, in sixth place, Daniel Maria Costa. In fourth place, Bucknell. Third place, your Bison teammate, in second place, 51.22, Haley Robinson. ECAC champion in the winning time, 50.55. And now I'm going to tell you the awards. In eighth place, 180, Dylan Pattinson. In seventh, University of Pennsylvania, Ryan Marker. In sixth, Navy, Lamb. From Columbia, Kevin Obochi. In fourth, from Navy, Adam McKay. 39, 43, 91, midshipman teammate Henry Kane. In second place, also Winning third of the weekend, backstroke is setting the lead record tonight in 100.293.
I reckon Joe Hayburn might get tired of climbing all the way up to the top spot of the podium at this rate. Third gold medal top spot win this weekend, including 2 over the span of the last 20 minutes or so, and just a chuckle and a laugh after what has been a dominant performance for the Loyola swimmer, now holding 3 of 4 first place Loyola positions this weekend. As we move on at the halfway mark, we'll have a quick look at our standings during Heat 1 of 2 in what is the women's 200-yard breaststroke. A rare vacancy in lane 8. We'll do a quick look at lanes 1 through 7. Francesca Fields of Iona in lane 1, followed by Kira Giles of Bucknell in 2. Maddie Morowski is in lane 3 for Penn. Then in lane 4 is McKenna O'Brien of Loyola, with Haley Baker in lane 5 of Iona. Then 2 18-year-old Loyola swimmers, Riley McGerald and Grace Litzinger, rounding out with, as mentioned, lane 8 unoccupied for this one. We'll have a quick look, since we're at the halfway mark in day 3, of the overall team standings currently. Bit of a glitching taking place, but we do have it, with Navy in first place at 713 total points, followed by Bucknell, who has extended themselves in second with 433 points. Then it's Loyola in third, 320 points, just 12 points ahead of Penn in fourth position. Then a large gap with Fairfield due to some good podium finishes already today in fifth place at 199 points. Just 7 points ahead of Iona, who is in sixth position. Then it's Manhattan, Rutgers, James Madison, and Delaware rounding out the top 10, with Lehigh, Central Connecticut State, Baruch, Hunter, Harvard, and American rounding out the overall 16 team spots. At the halfway mark in this competition, Heat 1 of 2 in the women's 200-yard breaststroke championship, in what could be another multi-winner this weekend in Heat number 2. We start first, though, in Heat number 1, and in lane number 4, a slight advantage for McKenna O'Brien, the 20-year-old Loyola swimmer. We've seen Loyola very much do impressively well for the women and the men, it should be noted, on day 3 of this championships. But it's Riley McGerald, another Loyola swimmer, that is going to lead them out on the final 50 yards. And the pack continuing to close in. I'll tell you what, they're going to be about 4 abreast, the middle 4 lanes, going into the final 25. However, it is still Riley McGerald up in lane number 6, narrowly ahead. In lane number 5, Haley Baker providing a threat. Lane 3 as well for Morowski, but it'll be Riley McGerald coming to the line and taking Heat 1 of 2 with a 2:22.9. Second and a half ahead of Baker and Morowski, who finished tied for second, a 2:24.35. And then in fourth is in fourth, O'Brien in the middle lane. We return now to the A final, Heat number 2. The pool record a 2:11.22. That's not expected to be touched, nor the ECAC record of an eye-opening 2:09.8. So Lauren Barber and Emily Escobedo, who has those records respectively, they can sleep tightly, we appear. But it is expected to still be a close one in the pool. 2 one-time winners already in lanes 4 and 5. Marley Bernard and Corinne Warner, both of Navy, both of 19 years old, both in the same class, both looking for their second win this weekend. We go to lane number 1. Noelle Hoffman, the 20-year-old out of Loyola, followed by one of the younger swimmers out of Delaware, Asimina Antaki. Then it's Kelly Byron, a Bucknell representative in lane 3, with Bernard. Look out for her in lane 4. She is the number 1 seed in the prelims. And Warner in lane number 5. Then it's the other Bucknell representative, the oldest competitor, 22 years old, Hannah Bingley. Then in lane 7, Hannah Petch of Penn, Olivia Glazer in lane 8. Pesh of Penn, Glazer of Fairfield in lanes 7 and 8 as are underway in the women's 200-yard breaststroke Heat 2 final. Competitive time notably for Riley McGerald. The 18-year-old out of Loyola took the first heat, but the second heat expected to be headlined by Bernard in lane number 4, whose 2:16.65 preliminary time was good for 7/10 ahead of the next closest competitor, her teammate Corinne Warner, in fact, who is up in lane number 5. And Warner, I tell you what, has the slight advantage, doesn't she, to the first 50 yards of 200. After the 200-yard breaststroke, we have our butterfly competition, 200 yards out. And then closing out this evening and this weekend, it'll be the 400-yard freestyle relay. The early advantage, though, to Corinne Warner, who will lead them out. Warner took the 100-yard breaststroke title yesterday, in fact, representing Navy. Meanwhile, Marley Bernard took the 400-yard individual medley. That was also in yesterday's competition. So both coming off of wins. The early favorite expected to be Bernard, but it's Warner so far in front. You want someone to try to provide an upset? How about Kelly Byron, who is down in lane number 3? She has gone right neck and neck for second position in the form of Marley Bernard, but an emphatic advantage that belongs up in lane number 5 and belongs to Warner. We will come to the last 50, and it's Warner from Byron for Bernard. Second and third separated by less than 0.4 of a second, and it's a Bucknell currently 2 and 4 with Bingley up in lane number 6. But this has become an emphatic advantage for Corinne Warner up in lane number 5. She was 7/10 slower than her teammate Bernard in the prelims, but has herself about a second ahead of her teammate coming into the final 10 yards. It'll be a second victory on the weekend in lane number 5 for Corinne Warner with a 2:12.6. Bernard did very well to come back and take second position away from Byrne, with Bingley in 4th. And up in 5th position, down in lane number 2, a good swim for Asimina Antaki, the Delaware swimmer, rounding out the top 5. So Corinne Warner, the victor in the women's 200-yard breaststroke, swam notably almost 5 seconds quicker, in fact more than 5 seconds quicker in her preliminary swim. We go to the consolation final, then the men's 200-yard breaststroke with an emphatic leader also belonging to Navy in the second heat. This is the consolation final. And a reset for the first time, and that'll draw some ironic boo birds as the swimmers get back in set. Always comical when that takes place, but we're underway in the consolation final in the men's 200-yard breaststroke. Lanes 1 through 8, Connor Labassi, Jack Bem, Tommy Yeagle, Matt Rodabog, then William Harpster, Rowan Hayes, Remiel Faingersh, and James Robinson rounding it out. We have a quick look then at the men's standings as we hit the halfway mark in this day 3 of 3. Navy is going to continue their excellent pace ahead, although Loyola has separated themselves from the pack and will most likely take second position due to their excellent start, most notably by their one individual swimmer who's won 2 competitions, Joe Hayburn. It's a big battle for third, though, between Penn and Columbia, the 2 schools separated by 13.5 points. That has Penn slightly ahead. Then it's Bucknell maintaining their spot in 5th position by 20 points ahead of Fairfield, who's at 236 points. Then a big gap with Baruch, Norwich, Maine Maritime, and Manhattan. in the top 10. Then it's Lehigh in 11th, Husan in 12th, Iona in 13th, Wilkes in 14th. We see for the first time NJIT this weekend, 20 points awarded due to Yonatan Adut's win in the 1650, the over mile freestyle. And then rounding it out in 16th place, SUNY Maritime with 15 total points. Coming to the line, meanwhile, in the consolation final 50 yards, it's Bucknell 1 and 2. Rottebog in lane 4 ahead of Harpster in lane number 5. The Bison looking for a push to get them some more individual points. They're currently 5th in the team score by just a 20-point advantage against Fairfield. Should be known there's 2 Fairfield swimmers in the pool in lanes 2 and 3. They want to stay ahead of them here as the 2 Bison swimmers round out the pack. In just the consolation round, points are always up for grabs, and it's going to be big points in the consolation round for Bucknell, who will cross the line first. Rottebog will. Harpster with a good late comeback, but not enough to come back entirely by 0.3 of a second less. Rottebog over Harpster with Fane Gersh in 3rd position up in lane number 7 for Baruch. Maybe some valuable points for Baruch as well, who are in 7th position and are trying to hold off from the rest of the pack in that save. Well, we turn now to the Heat 2 final in event, which is also expected to be one that could put the record books on hold. Maybe not the Bucknell pool record set by Marlon Brutkowitz of Navy in 2017, a 154.35, but maybe the ECAC record of a 156.08 set by Lovro Bilinic of SPC. That is a record that was set back in 2013. And so far, the seeded time, Noah Robinson's is 157.19. Maintains just a second off of that said mark. The rest of the competitors from lanes 1 through lane 8. Penn in lane 1 with Aiden Reed. Then it's the Navy swimmer Casey Ayton in lane 2. Colin Zhang will be in lane 3. The aforementioned favorite Noah Robinson will be in lane number 4. Then it's Neo Matsuyama of Penn in lane 5. Rounding out the swimmers up top in lane number 6, Elias Korn of Loyola, followed by Alekos Binder in lane 7 for Columbia. And then in lane 8, another Loyola swimmer, the 19-year-old Jack Hathaway up in that top lane. And it looks like early on it could be Noah Robinson against the clock. Came in with a preliminary time of a 157.19. That was 4.5 seconds besting Neo Matsuyama, who is the number 2 seed up in lane number 5. And there's already about a body's length ahead of Noah Robinson. It's Robinson, it looks like, against the stopwatch then in this competition as we approach about a 100-yard swam. Still Robinson, the Navy swimmer, ahead. Navy, about a 300-point gap on the team score, and now they're trying to keep the record books to themselves as well. It was a Navy swimmer 9 years ago that set the pool record of a 154.35. Marlon Brutkowitz did that in 2017, and now another Navy swimmer. Maybe not the pool record, but the ECAC record could be up for grabs for the midshipman swimmer in lane number 4. Some of the chants from the Navy side of things towards our right. Good look there from the crowd. Mike there taken in the backdrop as we see Robinson up by a length of about 2.5 seconds over Neo Matsuyama up in lane number 5. Matsuyama and Zhang, both Penn wrestlers, are about 2 abreast, fighting for second place, but all eyes turn to Noah Robinson in lane number 4, who is battling the clock, not just looking for the top spot, looking to break some records in the process. He's going to come close to it as well as he touches the wall. A 156.11, 3/100ths of a second away from the championship's record. Who will take the top position in the men's 200-yard breaststroke. Second place will be Colin Zhang, and Neo Matsuyama Rounding out the top three, another impressive swim by Robinson. He made that one a quick affair. Just 3/100ths of a second, and I tell you what, when he was about 15 yards away, you thought that he might have even had a gasp at the pool record of a 154.3. He does, of course, get the top spot on the podium. That was the main prerogative. And also in the top spot, as we get set for the award ceremony for the women, another Navy swimmer, and Corinne Warner. It'll be Warner's second top spot, with Noah Robinson claiming his first. A slight delay in the action as we get set for the award ceremony. The 200-yard butterfly is coming up next, but let's give it then to our public address announcer for the podium ceremony.
And 7 Loyola, Noel Hoffman. And 6 for 10, Hannah Hasha. And 5th, Delaware, Selena Taki. In board, Bucknell, Hannah Haley. Third, Winston teammate, Kelly Burns. Second tonight, 2:14.28 for Randy, Marley Burns.
More Navy dominance on the top step of the podium, and Navy and Bucknell, the top two teams so far, continuing to separate themselves from the pack, not just on the team score, but also on the podium as well, with Bucknell third and fourth, and Navy first and second in the women's 200-yard breaststroke. For Warner, her second win, as mentioned.
And 6 for 10, Aiden Reed. Fifth, Loyola, Jack Hathaway. And fourth, Navy, Casey Ayton. Third tonight, 2:16 for 10, Leo Matsuyama. And second, for 13, 2:54, Colin Zay. ECAC champion time, 136.11, named Noah Breaststroke.
Well, if you want dominance, how about this? Noah Robinson was 4.5 seconds quicker than second place Neo Matsuyama. Matsuyama in third place Colin Zhang, 4/100ths of a second, separating second and third. Turning to the next event then, it's the final specialty event of this weekend, the women's and men's 200-yard butterfly. We'll start with the women's side of things. The consolation final in the pool. In we go for the consolation final in the women's 200-yard butterfly competition. Another event, it should be noted, that has a heavy favorite. We'll get to that in a second, but first, in the consolation final, lane 1, Maddie So of Navy with her 22-year-old teammate Carly Marriott in lane 2. From 22 to 19 years old, Brianna Roccanello of Fairfield is in lane number 3. In 4 and 5, two 18-year-old Bucknell swimmers in the form of Tessa Feld and Emma Briganti. Then in lane 6, a battle of the Madisons as 18-year-old out of American University Madison Stover in lane 6 swims against the 19-year-old Iona swimmer Madison Loria. Then in lane 8, rounding it out, Riley Riebling, 21-year-old out of Loyola, one of just 3 non-teenagers in this consolation heat. So far, an early spurt for Brianna Roccanello down in lane number 3 for Fairfield. She will touch the wall at the halfway mark first, but not far off is the Bucknell swimmer Emma Briganti, the 18-year-old who is up in lane number 5. And currently, it is Briganti against Roccanello, separated by a couple of lanes in 3rd and 5th lane, respectfully. They have themselves quite the battle here in the consolations. And it makes sense. The two in their preliminaries were separated by just 18/100ths of a second. And they are going to be separated after 150 yards by just a little bit more than that, 2.5 of a second as they come to the final stretch. And a good advantage now for Emma Briganti, the 18-year-old, billing up. Briganti going to the opposite wall first and is extending her advantage all of a sudden from Brianna Roccanello, who is down in lane number 3. Can Briganti keep it? Consolation be darned. It's still one to swim for here. All the points for the individuals and the teams necessary, and maybe valuable points for Emma Briganti, who swam nearly 2 seconds quicker than in her preliminaries. A 2:08.41 for the heat win over Roccanello by 1.4 seconds. A 6.5 of a second gap between first and second on the final 50 yards. But we turn now to potentially another decisive victory on hand here for another swimmer out of Penn, Ruotong Zhang, who is victorious this weekend already. Zhang took victory in the 200-yard freestyle. Maybe 200 yards is her distance. When she comes to the 200-yard butterfly competition, who is the top seed by just under 4 seconds from Adriana Capanaiti, who is in lane 5 for Loyola. Rounding out the competitors, we have Georgia Yang, the 21-year-old out of Navy in lane 1, followed by Jocelyn Halsey, the Bucknell swimmer in lane 2. Then it's the only 18-year-old in this final heat, Caroline Kenselmo of Penn. She'll be in lane 3. The favorite, Ruotong Zhang, her teammate, in lane 4. Then it's Capanitti, the 19-year-old Loyola swimmer in lane 5. She's the number 2 seed. Should be noted, the number 2 seed, Capanitti, with the number 3 seed, Kenselmo, separated by just 0.4 of a second in the prelims. In lane 6, meanwhile, for Navy, the 20-year-old Caroline Powell, as Marissa Hengelsback and Sammy Yerkes round it out. Marissa Hengelsback, the 19-year-old out of Iona, and Yerkes, the 20-year-old out of Loyola, lanes 7 and 8. It was a near 4-second gap for the top seed in the preliminary competitions earlier this morning, belonging to Ruotong Zhang, as she tries to become the 3rd woman to win multiple events in this competition. Anna Vochow did it for Rutgers within the first 2 days. Astonishingly, Corinne Warner became the 2nd woman to do it earlier on in the previous competition of the 200-yard breaststroke, and now in the 200-yard butterfly, Ruotong Zhang looks to be the 3rd woman to do just that. Well, she certainly isn't burying the lead here, isn't she? Just look at the gap early on, about 2 bodies lengths ahead and she'll have about a 3-second gap already as she approaches the halfway mark. And how about that? Not exactly 3 seconds, but 2.8 seconds is not far from it. We mentioned a near 4-second advantage from the number 2 seed in lane number 5, Adriana Caponini. So far, Caroline Cancelmo, her teammate, the 18-year-old, looks to be the closest to the 19-year-old phenom. It is pen 1 and 2 in lanes 4 and 3 as Zhang from 150 yards will touch the wall. And now you might be having some whispers of records. It's going to take a very impressive final 50. The championship record of a 156.85 was set in 2016 by Francesca Stoppa of Rutgers. She is going to need a very impressive final 50 to reach that, but it is her against the stopwatch at this point. Ruotong Zhang will become the 3rd woman this weekend to take multiple individual titles, and she's going to do it in enthralling fashion, going to the line a 159.8, sub 2 minutes for the top of the podium. The battle for second coming close, and Cancelmo able to hold on to second position ahead of a very impressive late push by Caroline Powell, who actually does wind up, Powell doesn't she, get 3rd position with 4th place belonging to Caponini, who is the number 2 seed going into it. Turning to the consolation final now, we go to the men's 200-yard butterfly event, which just might see a championship record broken by the end of it. An event dominated by Navy, but no midshipmen in the prelims, or rather in the consolation. Instead, 5 different schools represented. In lane 1, Matt Baumberger, the 20-year-old out of Lehigh, in lane number 1. In lane 2 will be Timmy King, the youngest competitor, 18 years old, out of Loyola. Then in lane 3, out of Bucknell, Alex Crossing, the 21-year-old, representing the oldest. 2 19-year-olds out of Columbia are in lanes 4 and 5. Nathan Jacob in the 4th lane, Lucas Zhang in the 5th lane. Then the other 18-year-old in this consolation bracket, out of Bucknell, CJ Meyer. And then in lane 7, Christian McCauley, 19-year-old out of Lehigh. And then the other 21-year-old, Ryan Woodzell, who is in lane number 8 out of Fairfield, narrowly made it to the finals with a time of a 1:54.49. A blistering start in lane number 5 for Lucas Zhang out of Columbia, the number 2 seed in this consolation bracket, just behind his teammate Nathan Jacob. But so far, it is Columbia that has put themselves forward here in this event. Not like we will see with Navy. Well, I have more on that as we get to heat 2, but in heat number 1, it is still the nice powder blue in lane 5 cap, swim cap befitting the swimmer in lane 5, Lucas Zhang, with 50 yards to go, has himself ahead with Jacob in 2nd, and then a Bucknell swimmer, Alex Crossing, down in lane number 3, 1, 2, and 3. But Columbia trying to get some necessary points here in those middle lanes. It is the 2 Columbia swim caps leading them out in lanes 5 and 4. This is a good little late comeback from Nathan Jacob. We'll see if it's enough to cause a bit of a spurt at the end. Oh, just narrowly not so. A 1/10 of a second as Zhang holds on late for the crown in the consolation. Crossing holding on to 3rd as well by just 0.8 of a second ahead of Timmy King down in lane number 2, who would finish 4th. But now we go then to Navy dominance. Those swim caps that you see in the middle, those swimmers standing, no, we just don't have the same shade of blue. Those all belong to midshipmen swimmers. Navy in lanes 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 as we get into the final heat of the 200-yard butterfly and the final individual competition of the 2026 ECAC Open Championships. A public address announcer announcing the competitors. We'll do it with them. In lane number 1, one of 2 Loyola swimmers, interestingly enough, in lanes 1 and 8. In lane 1, Hayden Bartz, a 20-year-old out of the Greyhounds, and in lane 8, Thomas Cecchini, an 18-year-old out of Loyola as well, who took the final spot in the final heat by just 0.6 of a second. Then in lane 2, the Columbia swimmer, 20-year-old Holden Carter, and then it's all Navy. In lane 3, Alex Park. In lane 4, Evan Odea. In lane 5, Andre Brooks. In lane 6 is Charlie Greenwood. And rounding it out in lane 7 is George Brooker. I think it's suffice to say, goes without saying, Navy might be the favorites in this one. In lane number 4, out of the jump, Evan Odea, who is the top seed, the 21-year-old swimmer, the second oldest in this heat, just to his teammate George Brooker, who's up in lane 7. Had the earliest jump and through 25, seems to be leading the line. Last out of the water on that last wall push, and in lane number 4, through 50 yards, it will be, in fact, Odea. And a tie for second between Park and Brooks, from Carter, from Greenwood, from Bartz, from Cecchini, from Brooker. Blistering pace for this Navy men's team, who will take their 12th team victory in the ECAC, 12th straight, I should say, team victory in the ECAC Open Championships, a competition that they have dominated from top to bottom, as they have done throughout the last now 12 years of this competition. And no better way to describe that than what you are seeing here with Navy in lanes 3 through 7. And they aren't expected to be upset in this one as well. In fact, it is going to be Navy 1, 2, 3, and 4. Currently, as we approach the last 50 yards, the closest non-Navy swimmer is down in lane 2. That's Holden Carter of Columbia attempting to provide a scare. But it's still Odea from Brooks from Park. In lanes 4, 5, and 3, Odea ahead by a spring of, I would say, about 0.5 of a second or so going into the final 25 yards. Maybe a late burst here from Andre Brooks trying to provide a scare. It's Brooks and Odea, 2 Navy swimmers, coming to the line. Does Odea have enough in a tank to finish strong? He just narrowly will, by less than 0.1 of a second, to take it over Brooks from Greenwood. And it'll only be a 1-2-3 for Navy as Carter takes 4th, ahead of the Navy swimmer Park, from Brooker, from Bartz, from Cecchini, as Loyola finishes 7th and 8th. So Evan Odea, the victor, as Navy will take the top 3 spots on the podium. The midshipmen will take a spot on the podium, but it'll be Penn, in fact, that takes spots 1 and 2, courtesy of Ruatong Zhang and Caroline Kinselmo Zhang, with her second victory of the competition, as we take it to our public address announcer, followed by some stellar competition in the 200-yard butterfly.
47, Breakers go level 2, your ECAC champion, 159.87 for Penn,
As far as the team score is concerned, Penn continuing to be the second best team as far as taking the top spot of the podium. However, in the overall competition, they are still in fourth, trying to catch up to Loyola for the top three, and they will look to attempt to find themselves in the top three, but the top spot of the podium not vacant to UPenn this weekend. When it was all said and done after the preliminaries, not a single Navy swimmer did not make the final heat that partook in the prelims of the 200-yard butterfly. Within the end, the top three preliminary positions and 5 of the top 6 belonging to the midshipmen in the 200-yard butterfly. We'll have a short break in the action, but when we return, it'll be the 400-yard freestyle relay, always the perfect way to end a weekend of swimming. The women's and the men's partaking in the 400-yard freestyle relay in just a few moments' time. And with the whistle gone, we're all set to go then for the final competition, the final two events of this weekend's 2026 ECAC Open Championship. It is the 400-yard freestyle relay for the women and for the men. 7 teams represented here in the final competition, representing lane number 1, Manhattan University, all the way down on the near side. In lane number 2, Iona University. Lane 3 will be Loyola Maryland University. They are represented as the number 3 seed. Lane 4 is Navy. They are the top seed by just under 3 seconds. Bucknell is in lane number 5, Fairfield in lane 6, American lane 7, Bucknell notably the number 2 seed in this event, which is underway. And this is always one that has the benches and the crowd at an extra attention. It will be a 3rd championship team victory in 4 years for Navy over Bucknell, who will take 2nd position. But now in the 400 freestyle relay, it's all to play for here down at the end, as we're about 4 abreast going into this opening salvo. On the near side, a slight advantage belonging to Loyola Maryland on the opening leg of 4. Already set for the 2nd leg, and it's Loyola, Navy, Bucknell, and a good little push by Fairfield up in lane number 6 that are separated by about half a second on the bird's eye going into the 2nd leg of 4, as Bucknell takes an early advantage here after the 1st leg pass. Bucknell slightly ahead up in lane number 5. Navy occupying some space down in lane number 4. Fairfield doing pretty well up top there, coming in with a preliminary mark of a 3:39.51. That wasn't actually a preliminary, that was a seeded time, not a preliminary time. They have lived up to the billing so far, as that number 3 seed up in lane number 6 have themselves now in 3rd position ahead of Loyola in lane number 3. And for the first time, we're seeing Navy begin to take a bit of an advantage over Bucknell as we approach the halfway mark. This is the only heat. This is the Heat A final. It's all A teams competing, and it's Navy in the pool on the second half first. From Bucknell, from Fairfield, from Loyola, from Iona, from American, from Manhattan down in lane number 1. You can barely even see the Manhattan swimmer on the near side, with all the spectators and the swimmers standing up for the final competition. But it is Navy beginning to showcase their strengths a little bit here. 250 yards swam of 400, and the quickest lap actually belonging to Navy as well by about 1/10.5 of a second. The 2nd quickest, Bucknell, and then Loyola, who is in 4th position, had a slightly quicker lap there. On to the final exchange, and Bucknell is starting to catch up to Navy. They're a little bit closer from their last exchange. Bucknell looked to be the fastest in the pool. As we go into the final 100, they're neck and neck between Navy and Bucknell here. By just 1/10.5 of a second. That last lap, Bucknell was nearly half a second quicker. 3 under 28 seconds in the final turn, with Loyola being the other. Loyola trying to make a push, but it's Bucknell and Navy going into the final lap here of this competition in lane 4 and 5. It looks like the Bison are going to be slightly ahead on the final push. 0.3 of a second quicker on the last lap, 1/10.5 second quicker overall. Loyola has now overtaken Fairfield as well for 3rd position, but all eyes are on the top 2. On the final push, it looks like Bucknell has it. A slight advantage off the push. He was a little bit quicker on the final leg, and it's going to be Bucknell closing out the women's competition, victorious in the 400 freestyle. Navy in 2nd, an excellent push from Loyola. They'll take 3rd as Fairfield and Iona round out the top 5. Manhattan with a good little comeback. In fact, Manhattan were the 3rd fastest in the pool on that final lap to take 6th, as American will round it out. The Bucknell women definitely showcasing their stride throughout this weekend. They will take 2nd position in the team score, and they'll close it out with a victory as well. The orange swim caps adding to the speed in this weekend's festivities. As we go to the men's 400-yard freestyle relay, there's actually going to be 2 heats in this competition, as Norwich and Iona, who due to their seeded times were not able to make the final heat, will instead have a consolation swim-off. Norwich and Iona on the team score, separated to the point where it's a bit of a moot point. Iona is 13th out of 16 schools. Norwich will finish 8th out of 16, but they will swim off nonetheless. Norwich, representing the white swim caps, will be in lane number 4, and Iona, representing the darker swim caps, will be up in lane number 5 for the swim off. Chance then finally at the legs that are getting announced. Once again, this is heat 1 of 2. We will see all 8 lanes occupied in the final heat, which is actually expected to be a very close competition as well. But first, Norwich and Iona will go into the swimming pool as mentioned for the consolation. We'll get a look at the women's final scores once they become available, as they just get updated on our screens. But first, the consolations portion of the men's 400-yard freestyle relay underway, and with all attention still on the pool, some pressure for the swimmers to produce nonetheless. Since we are in the consolation, it is an opportunity to thank everyone behind the scenes that has allowed us to get this broadcast off throughout the weekend. E&I Communications down in the sarcophagus of the pool doing an excellent job all weekend with his crew and staff running things. Adam Contini, the executive producer. Maria Rizzuta, who's been in the sarcophagus of the natatorium throughout, directing. Travis Fatcheline on camera, and Luke Smith, who is the play-by-play man for Friday and Saturday. An excellent job as always, and it couldn't have been possible to do all 3 days of this championship without the excellent crew behind the scenes, allowing us to get the broadcast off and underway. As the women's scores get updated, as it currently stands, it'll be Navy that takes the top position in the championships with a total of 818 points, though it should be noted that is unofficial. The scoreboard that represents everything is still updating, but we have Navy at 818 points, Bucknell in second at 537 points. Then it's Loyola. This is once again the women's final totals at 408 points, with Penn at 364.5. In fourth, Iona rounding out the top 5 with 247.5 points. Then it's Fairfield, Manhattan, Delaware, Rutgers, and James Madison rounding out the top 10, with Lehigh, Central Connecticut State, Baruch, Hunter, Harvard, and American rounding it out. Once again, you're tuning into the consolation swim-off between Norwich and Iona. Norwich is down in lane number 4 and has the slightest of advantages by about 3 seconds or so. From Iona, Norwich was quicker than Iona by about 2.8 seconds, according to their seeded times. And that seems to be represented by what we have seen so far in the swimming pool, as Norwich will be the first to the final exchange, representing those white swim caps into the pool for the final leg of the men's 400-yard freestyle relay. Once again, we are expecting a very tight-knit affair in the top-seeded final of this competition. For the men, though, no doubt about who will take the crown. Navy, with 961 team points across the weekend, are going to be in first place. Loyola will be in second, ahead of Penn. Although if you want to look and maybe keep an eye out for some things worth mentioning, Penn and Columbia are separated by about 16.5 points for third and for fourth with Penn ahead. That could be something that could interchange depending on what takes place. Bucknell and Fairfield also are separated by a grabbable mark of about 34 points, though that would be a tall task. As we go to the final tap here, it will be, in fact, Norwich in the fourth lane ahead of Iona in first and second. A good little comeback from Iona, but Norwich still maintaining the top spot by about 2 seconds and change. And now the crowd all at attention for the final event of the competition, the final heat of the competition. It is the men's 400-yard freestyle relay in the 2026 ECAC Open Championship. All 8 lanes being used. Down in lane number 1, Baruch College. And then in lane 2, we'll see Fairfield University. And it should be noted at this point, between lanes 2 and 7, all the seated times are under 3 minutes and 10 seconds, and overall separated by less than 9 seconds. In lane 3 will be Columbia University. And then in lane 4, the favorites just over 3 seconds, a 3-minute .72. Loyola, as mentioned, in that fourth lane. Then it's Bucknell, who's the number 2 seed, up in lane number 5. We have maybe a slight delay here in the action. Seems like there's a problem with the board that is up in lane 6, but after a slight correction, it looks like we will get started. In that 6th lane is UPenn, then in lane 7, Navy, and in lane 8, Manhattan. We're set to go for the final event of the championships. All of the team events have been dominated by Navy throughout the competition. Every event in the swimming pool, including the 200-yard freestyle relay, was taken by Navy's A team. However, Navy by the seed up in lane number 7 are only 6th quickest. However, don't say that to the swimmers, because at the first wall push, they're going to be in first position with a 21.1, ahead of Bucknell, ahead of Columbia. Now up in lane number 7, and then all the way down in lane number 3 is 1 and 2, as Navy and Columbia have set the standard early. Bucknell and Loyola were the top 2 seeds, but right now they're struggling to stay with the pack, as up top, lane number 7, Navy, a sub 45 second on the 50, has them ahead of Penn in lane number 6 for second. Loyola, a good little comeback there late to round out the top 3 through the first leg of 4. Standing room only if you are poolside. For all the competitors watching this one, Navy continues to set the standard, a 20.5. They are the quickest in the pool by half a second, up in lane number 7. Navy has not lost a team competition in these championships for the men's side of things, and they are ahead by nearly 2 bodies lengths so far. This is a stellar start at the halfway mark, a 127.7. And now, if you are watching as a neutral, you're looking at the record book. The record, you see it in the bottom left, a 2:58.09 in these championships. That was set by Columbia March 1st, 2020. By the Columbia quadruplet of Tan, Lee, Walker, and Shepanzik. Navy, I think, is turning away from the crown and is turning to the stopwatch. However, a bit of a slow push-off has put the rest of the pack all of a sudden back into things. In lane number 4, Loyola has found themselves within a body's length. Penn has found themselves within a body's length. And the rest of the pack has all of a sudden caught up to Navy after the 3rd leg, going into the 4th leg. And all of a sudden, it's all to play for here. All of a sudden, the pack has caught up. Here comes, in the 4th lane, Loyola, who is the top seed, coming out of nowhere. They're as high as 5th in the standings, and now here comes Penn in lane number 6, and it's going to be Penn that has taken the lead here coming into this stretch. How about the University of Pennsylvania? They've overtaken Navy as the midshipmen falter off up top. They still have themselves with a punter's chance, but then on the far side, the entire crowd chanting on Penn up in lane number 6, trying to cap it off, and they do with a 2:58.2 ahead of Navy, with Colgate Columbia rounding out the top three from Loyola, from Bucknell, from Fairfield, from Baruch, from Manhattan. What a comeback for Penn to take the men's 400-yard freestyle relay. The timing screens of a 2:58.28, just 2/10 off of the record, but an anchor leg to remember for Penn to take the competition, to take the event, and to hand Navy their first team loss in men's competition in the championships in the final event of said competition. As we go to the awards ceremony that will follow, as all of the athletes rounded out, we'll get the swimmers meandering their way towards the podium. As we await the updated team rankings, we already brought up the women's rankings. We're waiting for the men's rankings to reset on our screens here. As the women will go to the podium first. The women's 400-yard freestyle relay headlined by Bucknell. That will surely earn the garner of the neutral and of the home crowd in attendance. We'll send it to our public address announcer for the final time for the awards ceremony.
ECAC champion of the time, 2:58.28, 2 minutes for the league record, Penn, we have our top three relays to the awards podium, please. Tonight, finishing in third place with the 42 relay, 3:30.52, Loyola. In second place, 3:26.43, Navy, Samantha Berry, your ECAC champion, winning time 3:25.37,
Bucknell taking the women's 400-yard freestyle relay by just 1.1 seconds ahead of Navy with Loyola, a 3:30.32. It was Navy and Bucknell, the only two teams in the relay finishing under 3 minutes and 30 seconds on the timing sheets. Loyola, Iona, and Manhattan rounding it out. Fairfield and American unofficially disqualified in that event. We already said it before, but we will round it out as we have the women on the podium. The team scores for the women will finish with Navy in first with 818 points, Bucknell in second with 537 points. Then it's Loyola with 408 points, the top three for the women in the 2026 ECAC Open Championships. Now to the men's 400-yard freestyle relay.
In second place tonight, 2:59.96, Navy,
Navy ultimately led by as many as 2 seconds in portions of the men's 400 freestyle relay, but Penn wound up out swimming Navy by that mark and then some on the final 2 legs to claim the victory. A 2:58.28 final score, 2/10 off of the championship record. What that means then for the final team points of the men's side of things, Navy would take the top spot with 995 points from Loyola, from Penn, from Columbia, and then Bucknell rounding out the top 5 for the men. We'll step aside here from the booth for executive producer Adam Contini, our director Maria Rizzuta, camera operator Travis Fatchline. I'm Nicholas Severini. We'll get it back to the natural audio next, but this has been the 2026 ECAC Open Championships live on YouTube and the Bucknell University YouTube channel.
Congratulations on a great ECAC meet from everybody, so congratulations on that. Even more so, congratulations to our seniors on 4 great years. As we wrap up here, senior will pick up the runner-up award. Once awards are out, some of you 1, 2, 3. Fans, at this time, I direct your attention to our awards playing underneath the scoreboard. It's time for our Postmate Award ceremony. Thank you for joining us this weekend at the 2026 ECAC Open Swimming and Diving Championships. The ECAC would like to thank Bucknell University for serving as our host institution for this year's championship. A special thanks to Assistant Director of Athletics, Aquatics, and Auxiliary Services here at Bucknell, Ian Dye, and his staff here at the auditorium, and everyone that had a hand in helping this meet be such a success. At this time, the ECAC would like to begin our award ceremony. Award winners, as your name is read, please come forward to exchange your trophy. The ECAC would like to award the men and women swimmers and coaches of the week. The 2026 ECAC Women's Open Swimmer of the Week this weekend will be the 200 free, 200 fly for men. Moving on, I'd like to recognize the 2026 Women's Open Coach of the Week, John Morrison, South Lady. And your 2026 ECAC Men's Open Swimmer of the Week tonight, 1,100 freestyle to the backstroke, 18 fastest time in the nation on the back, Joe. At this time, the ECAC would like to recognize the top 3 finishing teams, the 2027 Men's Open Swimming Championships. Captains, please come forward as your team is called. Our third place team this weekend with a score of 379.5. With the Quaker Captains. For the men's team, please come forward to receive the trophy. Again, in third place, 379.5 points, from Penn. Finishing second this weekend with a total of 609 points. Whoa, University of Maryland! For the Brown Captains, please come forward to accept the trophy. The 2026 ECAC Men's Open Swimming Champion. Total score this weekend, 995 points. With the midshipmen, please come forward to accept the 20th championship banner. Congratulations, top finishing teams. We'll now recognize the top 3 teams of the 2026 ECAC Women's Open Swimming Championships. Captains, please come forward as your team is called to receive the trophy. Our third place team this weekend, 408 points. finishing in second place this weekend, 537 points. And the 2026 ECAC Women's Open Swimming United Champions of combined score this weekend, 818 points. The Mission And please congratulate all our winning teams. At this time, we invite our team champions, the women in parade. Please come forward for a group photo shot. Once again, thank you all the teams for joining us right now for the 2026 ECAC Men's and Women's Open Swimming United Championship. Please join us.